The opening image hits like a silent explosion. Night wraps the suburban American home in a false sense of normalcy, but the flashing red and blue police lights tear through it, exposing the lie. This isn't chaos with screaming or panic, it's worse. It's quiet. Inside the hospital, Maya Reynolds kneels on a cold, unforgiving floor, her body folded inward as if trying to disappear. The sterile smell of antiseptic mixes with vomit and fear. Her daughter Lily sits nearby, wrapped in a thin hospital blanket far too big for her small frame. Lily doesn't cry. She doesn't speak. Her eyes stare through the room, hollow and exhausted, like something inside her shut down hours ago. When the nurse whispers, "She stopped crying after number 30, the line lands like a knife. It tells the audience everything. This pain wasn't quick, it wasn't accidental, and it wasn't stopped when it should have been. The story announces itself as brutal, emotional, and impossible to lose the moment the number changes. From 30 to 47, everything fractures. Maya hears 47 as if it echoes inside her skull, repeating until sound itself becomes pain. Her body reacts before her mind can catch up. She vomits into a trash bin, humiliated, broken, powerless. This is where the hook sharpens. Numbers make the abuse measurable, undeniable, horrifyingly deliberate. Then comes the detective's question, delivered calmly, professionally, almost gently. Was corporal punishment common in your husband's family? That sentence detonates a second bomb. The audience realizes this wasn't random violence. It was cultural. Systemic. Normalized. The story pivots from tragedy to betrayal in a single breath. Maya's world cracks open. Every family dinner, every polite smile from her in-laws, every moment she trusted them suddenly replays in a darker light. This isn't just about pain inflicted, it's about pain permitted, inherited, and protected by silence. K away from. The final blow of the hook is betrayal layered on betrayal. The abuser isn't a monster hiding in the dark. It's Robert Hale, the grandfather who hugged Lily goodbye. Worse still, Judith Hale counted every strike out loud, turning cruelty into ritual. Lily was sent there with permission, her father's permission, while Maya was kept in the dark. That silence is its own form of violence. The absence of Evan Reynolds becomes deafening. Where is the man who promised to protect his family? As Maya finally sees Lily's back, the bruises form a grotesque map, each mark a destination of pain, each color a memory Lily will carry forever. This is the moment Maya transforms. She is no longer just a grieving mother, she becomes a force. Her final thought is not revenge, it's justice. Cold, legal, public justice. The hook ends by promising the audience something irresistible. This family won't just fall, it will be exposed, dismantled, and destroyed by truth. Maya Reynolds is the quiet center of her small family, yet beneath her calm exterior lies a storm of guilt and suppressed emotion. Once a dedicated paralegal, she left her career to raise her daughter Lily, believing motherhood was the ultimate calling. Maya was raised to value family above all else and taught that conflict is dangerous, that peace is more important than truth. This upbringing left her conflict avoidant, conditioned to silence her own feelings for the sake of others. She carries a profound sense of guilt for not always being present, her mind constantly replaying moments when she could have intervened, offered more protection, or simply listened. Maya's love is deep but understated, manifesting in small gestures that often go unnoticed. The trauma of her past, long buried, begins to stir as she confronts the cruelty inflicted upon Lily, awakening a fierce protective instinct that will drive the story forward. Lily Reynolds is an 8-year-old girl whose silence speaks volumes. Observant and emotionally intelligent beyond her years, she learned early that survival often requires quiet compliance. She notices everything, small gestures, fleeting expressions, tones of voice, yet rarely responds, internalizing the emotional climate around her. Lily finds solace in her drawings, especially houses with locked doors, a subtle symbol of her desire for safety and control in a world that feels unsafe. The abuse she experiences leaves invisible scars that her young mind tries to process through art and subtle self-expression. Though small, her emotional awareness makes her highly perceptive to adult behavior, and she instinctively mirrors survival strategies she has observed in both her parents and grandparents. Lily is the emotional barometer of the story, her responses reflecting the family's toxic dynamics and foreshadowing the stakes of custody, protection, and psychological resilience. The Reynolds-Hale household is a carefully constructed web of normalized abuse and deeply ingrained beliefs. Evan, the father, presents as a loving husband but is emotionally passive, shaped by authoritarian parenting where discipline equaled love. His father, Robert Hale, believes fear builds character and proudly defends his methods, seeing them as essential to producing strong children. Judith Hale, the grandmother, layers ritualistic coldness on top. Her obsessive counting of punishments reflects a belief that pain purifies disobedience. Maya's past naivety allowed her to ignore warning signs, jokes about belts, casual references to old-school values, and obedience rhetoric. Now, the stakes crystallize. Maya must fight for custody and protect Lily's psychological well-being while confronting the buried trauma that her own upbringing concealed. The narrative tension rests on her awakening, both as a mother and as a woman unwilling to tolerate systemic cruelty in her family. The tension reaches a shattering point when Lily finally speaks, her small voice trembling yet piercing the heavy silence. Her words are fragmented, hesitant, but each carries the weight of trauma. The belt, the chair, being warned not to scream. She recounts the ritualistic cruelty with a child's innocent clarity, revealing that her grandmother, Judith, counted each strike slowly to ensure her father Robert didn't lose control. The fragments of speech paint a horrifying picture, layer by layer, leaving Maya reeling. Every syllable confirms her worst fears, the disbelief transforming into grim reality. The narrative pivot here is not just Lily's testimony, it's the undeniable confirmation of abuse that can no longer be ignored. The audience experiences Maya's shock, anger, and protective instincts converging, creating a visceral emotional hook that pushes the story from suspense to confrontation, marking the start of an unflinching pursuit of justice. The shock deepens when Evan, the father, responds not with outrage but with defense of his parents. He dismisses the severity of Lily's trauma with words meant to soothe but that cut like knives. They didn't mean harm and you're overreacting. His insistence that Maya not press charges becomes a defining betrayal, revealing the depth of his emotional passivity and the power his parents still wield over him. The audience sees Evan's internal conflict, loyalty to his family versus his moral responsibility as a father. But the effect on Maya is immediate. Trust fractures, anger simmers, and the stakes escalate. His actions push her toward independence, igniting a quiet determination to protect Lily without relying on her husband. This betrayal becomes the catalyst for her transformation from compliant wife to relentless mother, laying the groundwork for legal and emotional battles ahead, making the narrative impossible to ignore. The situation escalates rapidly. CPS opens a case, and police recommend charges against the grandparents, instantly shifting the family dynamic. The grandparents hire a lawyer the same day, signaling that this conflict will not be resolved quietly. Maya's sense of urgency sharpens when she overhears Evan on the phone, calmly plotting to frame the abuse as mere discipline. We'll say it was discipline. The marks look worse than they are. In that moment, something inside Maya snaps. The quiet, restrained woman who once avoided conflict realizes that the status quo is gone forever. She cannot return to life as it was. The betrayal, the abuse, the silence, all demand action. This is the point of no return, where Maya's internal transformation begins, and the audience is fully invested in her journey. The narrative tension skyrockets as legal, emotional, and moral battles loom ahead. Maya's world begins to shrink as Evan moves out temporarily, leaving her to navigate a storm of accusations and doubt alone. The Hale family, masters of manipulation, begin to spread a narrative painting Maya as unstable, questioning her ability to parent. Friends from church, once supportive, grow cold, hesitant to take sides for fear of gossip or conflict. Lily, sensing her mother's isolation, becomes quieter, more withdrawn, amplifying the emotional weight on Maya. This isolation is suffocating. It tests her resolve at every turn. The audience feels the tension viscerally. Maya is surrounded by familiar faces, yet she is utterly alone. Every phone call, every glance, every whispered conversation becomes a subtle reminder of the world turning against her. This emotional solitude lays the groundwork for her inner transformation, forcing her to rely solely on her instincts and resolve to protect Lily, while the toxic influence of her in-laws intensifies, making the story impossible to stop following. The pressure escalates as the grandparents file petitions for visitation, and legal threats loom over custody. Maya is advised repeatedly to settle for the sake of expediency, but each suggestion feels like a betrayal of Lily's safety. Meanwhile, Lily begins to regress emotionally, her young psyche struggling to process trauma. Night terrors erupt, causing her to wake screaming, flinching at even raised voices, a shadow of her former, quiet self. Her drawings, once expressive and detailed, stop including people, filled instead with empty rooms and locked doors, a chilling mirror of her isolation. The audience sees the compounded effect of abuse and neglect, the interplay of fear, manipulation, and systemic pressure. Maya's maternal instincts flare with urgency, compelling her to fight not only legally but psychologically, proving that this conflict extends beyond courtrooms, into the fragile, tender fabric of a child's mind. Amid the isolation and external pressures, Maya confronts her own buried trauma. Flashbacks to childhood neglect surface: silent dinners, reprimands for speaking, punishments endured quietly. She recognizes the painful cycle: silence was inherited, compliance normalized, and fear disguised as care. But this realization ignites a quiet rebellion. She resolves to break the pattern, to no longer allow history to repeat itself. With a court date set, Evan publicly siding with his parents, and hospital photos leaking to the media, the stakes have never been higher. Maya's internal battle becomes intertwined with public scrutiny, legal pressure, and the psychological welfare of her child. Her transformation from passive, guilt-laden mother to strategic, determined protector defines the narrative tension. The audience is left grippingly aware that every decision Maya makes now carries life-altering consequences for both her and Lily. The courtroom becomes a battleground of truth and deception as the grandparents take the stand. Robert Hale sits rigid, arms crossed, while Judith Hale speaks with chilling calm, her voice devoid of remorse. "We were teaching obedience," she declares, framing brutality as moral duty. The air is thick with tension, every word a calculated attempt to normalize violence. Maya watches, heart hammering, as the jury's expressions shift from attentive neutrality to growing shock. The audience experiences the emotional weight of generational abuse made manifest, authority figures cloaked in respectability revealing their cruelty with unapologetic pride. This moment crystallizes the stakes. Maya's fight is no longer just about custody. It is about exposing deeply entrenched beliefs that condone harm under the guise of discipline. The emotional intensity is suffocating, setting the stage for the twist that will turn the courtroom and the story upside down. Just as the Hale family seems untouchable, Maya introduces the twist: audio evidence. Lily, in her childlike curiosity, had accidentally recorded part of the abuse on an old tablet, capturing Judith counting each strike and Robert's heavy breathing, growing louder with anger. The courtroom falls silent, anticipation taut as the judge nods for playback. Maya holds her breath, her hand tightening around Lily's. The audience experiences the shock alongside the jury. The ritualized cruelty, once abstract, is now undeniable. Judith's mechanical counting resonates like a chilling mantra, each number a visceral echo of pain. The recording strips away denial and rationalization, replacing it with raw reality. Every spectator, from jurors to lawyers, feels the weight of years of hidden abuse. This twist is not just procedural, it's a deeply emotional revelation that validates Maya's struggle and amplifies the narrative tension to an almost unbearable pitch. As the audio plays, the room is frozen in silence, broken only by Judith's cold counting echoing through speakers. The emotional weight is unbearable. Jury members cry openly, their tears acknowledging the gravity of abuse. Evan, who once defended his parents, breaks down in the courtroom, realizing too late the extent of complicity exposed in his texts and messages. The power dynamic collapses. Criminal charges escalate against Robert and Judith. Visitation is permanently revoked, and Evan's reputation as a passive enabler is shattered. Maya's quiet resolve transforms into public victory, her fight for Lily validated on both legal and emotional fronts. The courtroom, once a stage for intimidation and control, becomes the arena for justice, catharsis, and revelation. The audience experiences an emotional crescendo, trauma confronted, truth revealed, and a mother's unwavering determination triumphing over generational cruelty. The aftermath of the courtroom climax is both legal and deeply personal. Robert Hale faces sentencing, the weight of his actions reflected in a formal courtroom decree, his authoritarian pride crumbling under the undeniable truth of his abuse. Judith is publicly condemned, her ritualistic cruelty exposed, leaving her social reputation in ruins. Evan's temporary loss of custody rights forces him to confront the consequences of his complicity, shattering the illusion of protection he once provided. The justice system, often slow and flawed, finally enforces accountability, signaling that abuse cannot hide behind tradition or familial loyalty. This resolution resonates emotionally. The audience feels a blend of vindication and lingering sorrow for the trauma inflicted. Consequences are not merely punitive, they are restorative, reshaping relationships and societal norms. The story emphasizes that while justice may not erase suffering, it validates the victim, giving weight and closure to Maya's courageous fight. With the immediate danger removed, Maya begins the difficult work of reclaiming her life. She returns to legal work, her experiences shaping a new purpose: advocacy for abused children. Her voice, once quiet and submissive, becomes a tool for change, empowering others while reaffirming her own strength. Therapy is woven into her daily routine, not a magical fix, but a grounded, honest confrontation with her own buried trauma. Each session peels back layers of guilt, fear, and learned compliance, allowing her to integrate the past without being consumed by it. Maya's journey demonstrates that empowerment is an active, ongoing process. The narrative emphasizes growth and resilience, showing the audience that reclaiming one's voice and agency is possible even after profound betrayal. She transforms from a passive protector into an active force for justice, redefining her identity on her own terms. Healing for Lily is subtle but profound. Her art returns as a form of expression and reclamation, depicting herself holding her mother's hand, symbolizing safety, trust, and renewed connection. While scars remain, they no longer define her. Trauma is acknowledged, not erased, marking a realistic portrayal of recovery. Night terrors and flinches fade gradually, replaced by cautious confidence and moments of joy. The bond between mother and daughter strengthens, a quiet but powerful testament to resilience and love. The narrative closes on a hopeful yet authentic note, emphasizing that trauma leaves marks but does not determine destiny. The audience is left with a sense of catharsis, witnessing both the legal resolution and the personal, emotional reclamation of life. Lily's art becomes a metaphor. Creativity, connection, and safety triumph over fear, and healing, though slow, is possible. 1 year later, the story slows to a gentle, reflective rhythm. Maya and Lily sit in a small, sunlit apartment, a safe haven far removed from the chaos of the Reynolds Hale household. The space is modest but filled with warmth, simple furniture, scattered books, and colorful drawings on the walls. The air is calm, and the outside world feels distant, allowing mother and daughter a quiet intimacy previously impossible. Lily, still small but stronger than the trauma she endured, asks the question every survivor fears: did I do something bad? It's a moment of vulnerability that underscores the lasting impact of abuse. The audience experiences the delicate balance between relief and lingering fear, realizing that while the immediate danger has passed, emotional recovery is ongoing. This scene sets the tone for closure without oversimplifying the healing process, emphasizing authenticity and emotional resonance. Maya kneels before Lily, her posture steady and unshakable, a stark contrast to the earlier chaos and fear that once dominated her life. Her voice carries both authority and compassion as she reassures her daughter. No, baby. You survived something evil. And you told the truth. That's the bravest thing a person can do. This moment crystallizes the emotional resolution of the narrative. Bravery is not about fighting back physically but speaking truth, enduring, and refusing to be silenced. The audience feels the weight of every struggle, betrayal, and battle that led to this point. Maya's steady presence embodies empowerment and protection, showing that true courage includes nurturing, patience, and unwavering love. This line resonates deeply because it honors the child's trauma while celebrating her resilience, offering a sense of closure and hope that is earned, realistic, and emotionally satisfying. The story closes with Lily pinning a new drawing to the fridge, a house with open doors, free of fear, punishment, or numbers. This visual metaphor reflects healing and the reclamation of safety. Unlike her previous drawings of lock houses and empty rooms, this artwork embodies agency, security, and hope. The doors are open, inviting trust and light, symbolizing both literal and emotional freedom. The camera, or audience perspective, lingers on this simple act, capturing the profound shift from victimhood to resilience. The cut to black is deliberate, leaving space for reflection and emotional resonance. The final image communicates that trauma may leave scars, but survival, truth, and love can redefine a life. It is a cinematic, powerful closure that emphasizes the long-term impact of courage and healing, leaving viewers with a quiet but lasting sense of hope and triumph.